I'd like to call to order this public meeting for the Corporation of Brunel, Lindnock and Raglan, this 26th day of May 2022 at approximately 7:01 p.m. Do roll call, Councillor Banks.
Yes.
Councillor Yon.
Yes.
Councillor Kaufman.
Here.
Councillor Rutledge.
Yes.
Okay. Present. Next resolution says that the council for the corporation of the township of Brunel, Lindnock and Raglan adopt the agenda as amended to include the public presentation and a closed session. I need a mover on that. Councillor Young, seconder. Councillor Banks, all in favor?
Yes.
And that is carried. Disclosure of interest from any councillor with the matters before us tonight. Seeing none. So the purpose of the public meeting tonight is of course to have a public presentation of the budget. So with that said, I believe the presenter tonight on the budget presentation will be Andrew.
Thank you, Mayor Keller. So tonight, we are going to do a presentation to the public. The full budget has been available to the public on our website. So this is basically an overview of the budget and some highlights. Next slide, please. So some of the highlights are, and this was the direction of council, to have a minimal tax increase imposed on the residents. Want to utilize some of our reserves for capital projects and the utilization of target specific grant funds. So these are funds that we've been receiving over the last couple of years that haven't necessarily been used. And also we've gone through an aggressive road rehabilitation plan, and a large part of the other capital purchases are rolling stock. We will show you that we have healthy reserves for asset replacement, and that throughout this budget, there were no reductions in service from the municipality. So this is just an overview of the first sheet on the actual budget. I'll move on to the next slide and let you know a few things. So council approved the budget at the last meeting. In principle, with staff was out basically $11,788, and council directed staff that would come out of working funds. And another important note for this budget is that it's been developed with the capital and operation components listed and total separately. So you have a capital budget and an operations budget. Go to the next slide, please, Charlie. Just a little bit of a look at what we have in municipal reserves. So we have what's called working funds, and we have a modernization fund and a COVID restart thing for previously separate lines. We just found it was easier to put them together. You have over 3/4 million in your roads reserve, and your fire has 90, waste management 362, recreation 73, and your office 26 for a total of $2.235 million. So the capital plan, as approved by council, was to proceed with the fire truck that's already in order. Capital roads plan, which the council identified the roads, 437,000. A gravel program, 100,000. Asset management, 15. A furnace for the Bottville shop was. It did come to council as 25. We had to add another 1,000 to the estimate, so that is one change that we had to make with that one. That's the only change in the budget from the time the council looked at it. Roll-off truck 120,000, sander 12,000, combination pile 320, and of course that's already been ordered. Crack steel 15,000, fresh hot 11,000, and a replacement tap ton for 24,000. Additional capital, and I have a request from one of the councillors for electronic sign board, and this would be either at the Palmer Roads location or Quanville. This is not in the budget. This is pending approval at your June 1st meeting, so it's just there for information for the public and for council at this point. So what happens that drives differences in our budget? So in wages and benefits, we have the cost of living, we have some alignment of vacation and an adjustment in wages, the way wages will be paid in the previous year. So that causes it to look a little different than the previous year. General government, we have a modernization fund, which increased that budget. We had to make an adjustment for OPE and protection. And this year, there's some grinding, so that puts an additional onto the environment. And then the recreational, we aligned some of the accounts, so it's a little different. So that's some of the reasons why there are some increases in operational expenses. So when you look at the wages, last year, we were 604, this year proposing 655, and the 655, if you look at 2020, it's more in line with 2020, but it's the fact that we paid wages in a different manner in 2021. And then we go down to the environmental service, you look at all of them, you can see that we're up to 201,000. Last year was a light year, the year before was 171. The reason why we're $30,000 more than 171 is the grinding. And then I said there was an adjustment in the way we're doing the recreational. So that's a little bit of why things are different. And again, the general government is because of some of that COVID restart money and then the modernization funds that we're actually using this year. So it's not like that was on the tax levy. So just a little information for the resident that might be helpful. We do get the question, it would be really nice if, all my tax money returned to me, if I got out every dollar. So if I pay $2,000 tax, I get $2,000 in service. But the reality is that your tax dollar goes to a lot of places. And part of it does go back to you, part of it's for the greater good of the municipality and the township. Just a little information, when we get that tax dollar, pretty much half of that tax dollar goes to education and to the county. So we really get the tax 50 cents. We really don't have the tax dollar. And out of that 50 cents, we've got to pay for police protection, which is something that's a set amount that we can't change. Our fire response, road maintenance, building services, recreation, and all our other services. So some of them get directly back to you as a taxpayer, but other ones are for the greater good. And then some of the services, like when you pay $2 for a garbage bag, we have some cost recovery and then some paid for services. We do have the building inspection process. So, but mainly everything's funded by tax dollars. Go to the next slide, please, sir. I didn't do a new one for this year, but it's always pretty close to the same. So this is out of the budget presentation from 2020. The county levy was 33.6, the education levy was 14.1, and the municipal level is 52.3. You're going to find that it's very close, but you can pretty well say half of your dollar goes to other places. So in a summary of our budget, and this is exactly what council directed, is a 1.5% on the municipal levy, and that's what we did. You have, and this is after all this budget, you have 2.2 million in your reserves, and they're mostly in committed reserves. You have, I guess, $500,000 range in a general reserve. But over the year, we may want to look at putting those into specific reserves so you have a place for them. And when that $11,800 is moved, you will have a balanced budget. And this year, you're taking $700,000 out of reserves for capital projects. You're not making a reserve contribution, but this year, but you do have fairly healthy reserves at $2.2 million. That's basically it. So we're going to go to public comment. So the deputy clerk will take over.
Okay, so for this public meeting for the 2022 budget, and that with the remote attendance, we implemented a procedure for residents wishing to comment on the budget to pre-register. As the process to allow persons to speak requires staff to unmute the speaker, it's necessary to have the speaker's name and telephone number prior to the start of the meeting. We're asking that comments and questions try to be limited to no longer than 3 minutes in length. Only one resident has pre-registered. If others listening and do have a comment, we ask that the comments be submitted to the deputy clerk before 12:00 p.m. Friday, the 27th, which is tomorrow, for inclusion on the June 1st agenda package. All persons commenting must provide their name and their township address. After Friday at noon, there will be no further opportunity for public comment.
For that, so saying that, I'll ask Jordan to unmute the one individual that wish to comment. So to the individual that wish to comment, you can go ahead and unmute.
So as it is public comment, we're asking Alicia O'Brien, if you can unmute, you can ask your question.
Hello. Okay. Sorry about that. I registered with my phone number. So my first question is about rec. And I'm wondering when we're going to get a rec committee back.
So
Can
thank
anyone
you.
answer my question?
Well, so thank you for your question. We will provide a response before the next meeting to you.
Okay, and then in regards to rec, I was just looking at the rentals cafe special events revenue that was created in 2020, and I was wondering why we don't have any budgeted figures for 2022, like we're not expecting any of that, or?
So again, we will provide comment before the next meeting.
Okay, so then these questions, would it be easier if I just provided them to you guys in writing, or?
I would say for sure, because the specific question, then we do have time to do the proper investigation to give you a proper answer.
Okay. The other things that jumped out off the page for me was why do we have a modernization expense line?
Okay, so we'll.
So is that?
So we're recording your questions, and simply if you could send them off to staff, we'll get you those answers.
Okay, I will, so I have about 6 questions here altogether, and I guess I'll put them all into writing, and then I can expect the answer at the next regular meeting, is that correct?
The township will comment by the next meeting or at the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good. So I guess that's everything for tonight, and I'll just put everything in writing and email that to you and expect answers the next time we go over this stuff then.
Yeah, there will be a reply provided, so.
All right, well, thank you very much for that, and I'm sorry you didn't get more participation. You guys have a good night.
Yeah, you too. So with that said, again, just to repeat to anybody else that may be listening, if you do have a question for council on the budget, that can be submitted by the end of the day tomorrow. By noon tomorrow, so that we can have that for the next meeting. So, Councilor Young.
Maybe we could provide those answers at the next meeting in case there's other members of the public that might have the same questions. Then everyone will know what the answers are for those questions.
So through the mayor, that would be the normal procedure, is it would just be posted, the comment would be posted.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I guess that's it. Okay, so thank you to all on the presentation there tonight. Of course, if you can access it on the internet, I believe that's also available at the office for pickup if anybody doesn't have internet service. Or simply, you know, I'm sure maybe members of council could share it with people if they wish. So right now, we have a resolution before us, says that we, the council for the corporation of the township of Brudenell, Lindbach, and Raglan, go into closed session pursuant to the municipal act 2001, section 2392, for the purposes of subsection B. 2, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Do I have a mover on that? Councillor Banks, a seconder, Councillor Rutledge, sorry. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, and that is carried. Okay, so resolution says the council for the corporation of Brudenell, Lindbach, and Raglan come out of closed session at approximately 8:25 PM. I need a mover on that. Councillor Yon, the seconder, Councillor Rutledge, all in favor?
Yes.
And that is carried. So right now, I'd like a show of hands to go back to item 4. Council's in agreement, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So what we have before us is a resolution that we, the council for the corporation of township of Brudenell, Lindbach, and Raglan, accept the 2022 public budget presentation for information. I need a mover on that. Councillor Kaufman, seconder, Councillor Banks. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
that is carried. And we have a resolution from coming out of the closed portion of the meeting that we, the council for the corporation of the township of Brudenell, Lindbach, and Raglan, authorize the municipal manager to proceed with the actions outlined in the report in close. So I need to move on that. Councillor Young, the seconder, Councillor Kofeld, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and that is carried. And we're down to confirmation bylaw. We, the council for the corporation of the township of Brudenell, Lindbach, and Raglan, hereby adopts bylaw 2022-27, legal bylaw from the proceedings of the May 26, 2022 public meeting of council. I need a mover on that. Councillor Banks, seconder, Councillor Rutledge, all in favor?
Yes.
And that is carried, and we have a motion to adjourn before us. That this meeting adjourned at approximately 8:27 PM on Councillor Young. So, and this is.